Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to another video, and in this video we do have some pretty interesting information to go over, potential Nintendo Switch leaks one would say. We're going to talk about why this makes sense, what it has to do with the release date of the Nintendo Switch 2, and overall what Nintendo's plan could be if this is true. So the Nintendo Switch 2 or the next Nintendo Switch console or whatever Nintendo's going to be doing is something that's been highly talked about right now, I think even more so now than ever. Which, by the way, tell me what you guys think the next Nintendo Switch is going to be called. I think it's going to be called the new Nintendo Switch. Now, for those who don't know, if you look at past Nintendo Switch handheld, Nintendo Switch consoles, and so on, they usually last on the market for 7 or 6 years before we get a new iteration of a handheld or console. Or the other path, a whole new console, which means a whole new generation of Nintendo. But there are other reasons as well as to why this is the perfect time for Nintendo to bring out a new Nintendo Switch console and why this date makes a lot of sense. Nintendo is on record saying that they want to sell 15 million units this year of the Nintendo Switch, but also expect a hardware decline when it comes to sales. This will also factor into my speculation on why this also makes sense and when we could see this and the reveal date and all that great stuff. Now, for those who are keeping up with the Nintendo Switch 2 / Nintendo Switch Pro talk, you will recall the recent post on the developer's Nintendo website of the NX2. It is interesting that this potential date has been put out so close to this listing of the NX2, and if you didn't know, NX was the original Switch codename for the console. So what is this date? Well, let's go over the article and see what tomsguide.com has to say about it. While Nintendo hasn't confirmed a Nintendo Switch successor, the rumor mill is still chugging along steadily. A potential release date timeframe surfaced online this week from a fairly credible financial site with a track record for Nintendo leaks, suggesting that we could see the Nintendo Switch 2 launch in the first quarter of 2024. So when we covered the information of the NX2 post, this was one of my theories in that video, that we would see the Nintendo Switch revealed in the first half of 2024, sometime around January, maybe February. Now, March is also another interesting date because we know the release date for Nintendo Switch was on March 3rd, if I recall. I know it was in March, but I'm not sure about the third date. I'm pretty sure it was though. But let's continue with the article. Chinese investment site MoneyDJ recently published a report outlining the production outlook on Hongzhun, a metal case manufacturer and subsidiary of Han Hai Technology Group, better known in international markets as Foxconn. Foxconn is best known for Apple's go-to manufacturer for the best iPhones, but it has branches that worked assembling game consoles as well. So essentially what that paragraph means is that the people behind this Nintendo Switch leak, potentially anyways, guys, remember that this isn't confirmed information, it's potential, does have a history with assembling game consoles, so that could also be for this new Nintendo Switch. So if these Nintendo Switches are currently being manufactured and assembled behind this group of people who are doing game consoles and have done game consoles in the past, they would know something about the release date because they need to get those done by a certain date, right? At least I would assume so. But let's continue. MoneyDJ expects sales at Hongzhun to peak in the latter half of 2023, citing Nintendo's plans to launch the Switch successor in the first quarter of 2024. It isn't specified if that means the first quarter of the calendar or fiscal year. The company's official statements imply the latter, as Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa confirmed back in May that Nintendo has no plans to release any hardware during its next fiscal year, which ends on March 31st, 2024. Now, there is something that you have to keep in mind when it comes to them saying that about the new hardware. Now, that sentence may sound a little strange to you. They did release that new Nintendo Switch with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, right? So they did release new hardware. Well, I think in this situation, I think Nintendo doesn't consider that new hardware. I think they consider that something else. New hardware, I think in Nintendo's mind, is something that is more powerful, something that's completely new, kind of like the new 3DS. So I think when they say that they're not going to release any new hardware during next fiscal year, I think they mean a new Nintendo Switch that's more powerful, the Switch Pro or Switch 2. Another thing you have to keep in mind is that in one of the investor meetings, they said that they want to continue to bring out these new Nintendo Switch iterations. And by iterations, I mean special editions like the Nintendo Switch OLED edition for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Also, wouldn't it be the first time that Nintendo kind of skewed the words or completely lied and brought out a new system? They did that with one of the 3DSs. So if this is in the first quarter, the question then becomes, well, when is the release date and when is the reveal date? I think those two dates are very important, and I think that's what we're all thinking when we hear this. Well, if it is in the first quarter of 2024 and we're assuming that this is around March, they could easily place it after March 31st. Remember, they still have to get games ready, they still have to put everything together, they have to put together the marketing, and overall, it's a big thing. This is the next big big thing for Nintendo when it comes to the next console or the next Switch, whatever they're gonna do. In my opinion, I think they should go with the Nintendo Switch 2, a little bit more powerful, better resolution, just better tech, because the tech in the current Nintendo Switch is pretty old at this point, and it should have backwards compatibility so that they're not leaving behind a massive amount of Nintendo Switch players. But anyways, let's continue with the article. While Switch hardware sales are hitting a slump, Nintendo enjoyed much stronger software sales over the past year. Nintendo updated its list of best-selling Switch games with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, 53.9 million, Animal Crossing New Horizon, 42.21 million, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, 31.09 million, retaining the top 3 spots. Now they also go on to talk about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and overall the hardware sales of just the massive amount of people picking up these games. And this is what I mean when I say this. The Nintendo Switch is still growing massively well even if the consoles aren't selling. And because software is selling so well, naturally you would want backwards compatibility with the current Nintendo Switch. Because not only can you continue to sell to those past consoles, but you can also sell to the people who pick up the new hardware. And yes, I know some people are wondering, well, what if they make games specifically for this new Switch? I have a feeling that that's going to happen. I have a feeling that there are going to be some games that just don't run on the past Nintendo Switch because it's a lot weaker. And I think to keep the backwards compatibility and still support the past Nintendo Switches, but also bring in a new Switch that's more powerful, I think that's a sacrifice that we may have to accept. It's not one that I typically would like, to be honest. I'd rather have everything run across the board so everyone gets to play. But I want a more powerful Nintendo Switch that has better resolution and better frame rate and so on, and I want the Nintendo Switch to continue on because I love the portability aspect. I like playing my games during my break at work or just taking off the dock and playing it in the bed or something like that. It's a fantastic form factor, and I hope Nintendo continues with it. Because I've said this in a past video before, it was a while back, but if Nintendo just continues with this handheld form factor, eventually there's going to become a point where we're going to have just a really good frame rate and resolution, and then on TV, a good frame rate and resolution, and the Nintendo Switch is going to have that portability factor over any other console. And then the other consoles are still going to be chasing, I don't know, at that point, what, like 8K or some weird thing like that? Like, where does Nintendo go after the Nintendo Switch? Do they just continue with that, or do they try to innovate in another way that we're not even thinking about? We know Nintendo likes to get a little wacky with their consoles and their ideas and overall just being Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo has tried to do more power in the past. They've done it with the GameCube, and I think there was a Super Nintendo as well, and there was varying success there. I mean, the GameCube was more powerful than the PS2, and yet it didn't really sell too well. So you gotta wonder, like, what do we do? What does Nintendo do with the next Nintendo Switch console, even if they do a Nintendo Switch 2 for another 4 to 7 years? Do they continue with this portability aspect, or do maybe they add another handheld into the fray, or what do they do? It's going to be interesting to see, because I feel like if they were to do another home console, even if it was more powerful, I kind of feel like they would be going backwards. It's like I've enjoyed the Switch so much that I feel like anything that doesn't have that portability aspect is kind of a downgrade for me. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think Nintendo should do after the Nintendo Switch and the potential Nintendo Switch 2? And also, what do you guys think about all of this? Do you think this date makes sense? Do you think that we're going to see the release date for the Nintendo Switch 2, or at least a reveal date around Marchish, maybe in the beginning of 2024? What do you guys think? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.